Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Are you a student of knowledge? Are you particularly interested in fiqh and follow the Hanafi madhab and are wondering what is the traditional method of studying the Hanafi madhab? Well, I'm going to share with you, inshallah, what is studied in the general madaris, in the Dars Nizami curricula, or at least what I went through when I studied the Dars Nizami curriculum. This is Nūr al-Īḍāḥ wa Najāt al-Arwāḥ. It's a very important kitab, and although it's not considered necessarily the classic book, which is Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī, which we can talk about at another time, it is a very important book because it simplifies a lot of things and acts as the first introduction for a student in the Hanafi madhab. If a student really understands this book well, it really establishes that foundation and allows them to understand the further masail as they develop later on. Now I wanted to share with you the book that I used when we were studying and compare it with modern day versions of the book itself. And I just want to show you how the students have studied in perhaps like 20 years ago. So this version I have here is printed by, it's called here Maktaba Qasimiyya, and this was what was available for us when we were students. And just a word of the development of books in recent times. When I was studying, and of course the generations before me in the recent past, what we would study were books that were not computer typed. So the books that we actually studied were handwritten by a scribe, and thereafter it was photocopied, and then many copies were made from that. So actually in reality the book itself is a handwritten copy. It's not the original handwritten copy, but it is handwritten. And what this does is it helps the student understand how to read manuscripts a little bit better. Although these handwritten copies are very nice, they're written in very beautiful calligraphy, it does allow the student to take that first step so that they can start reading manuscripts later on. That's one benefit, at least I tell myself, in regards to these types of books. Other than that, of course, I prefer the computer typed ones. I'll show you the computer typed version as well. So this is the book itself. Nūr al-Īḍāḥ is the book. It is written by Sheikh Hassan Ash-Shurumbullāli, who is a great scholar in the Hanafi madhab. Here, this one has a commentary and Ḥāshiyat, like footnotes, and a gloss on the book itself. We're not going to really be focusing on that. So I'll show you here. This is the book that I used when I was in the second year of the Alim course, which was 7 years for me. So you can see here me writing my name out with a highlighter, and as you can see, handwritten. It's beautifully written, but it's handwritten. Another comment is the quality of the paper. Since these were printed in India, the quality of the paper is not so good. So in my mind, a very rough understanding of the quality of paper, the least I don't want to say the worst, but the lowest level in terms of quality is going to be this type of quality. It's very rough, coarse material, and it's not bright. What that does is it doesn't make the letters pop out. It becomes harder for a person to actually look at. The second level of quality of paper is white paper, and I will show you a book with white paper. And the best quality of paper is this creamish color, which is in Arabic known as waraq shamwa. And that allows the words and the letters to really pop out and causes less strain on the eye. Now there's an even better, I guess I could assume. I saw some of my teachers having yellow pages. Like if you guys are old enough, you remember yellow pages where you would have everyone's number in the book. The pages were literally yellow. That causes the words really to pop out. So our Shaykh al-Hadith, he had a Sahih al-Bukhari, and his pages were on the yellower side. It wasn't pure yellow, but it was pretty yellow. It's more yellow than that cream paper. So anyway, all of this is not the book. This is just an introduction in different aspects about the author, about fiqh in general, about the Hanafi madhab. The book starts, And this is kind of, like how does one read this? If you're looking at this, how does one read all of this? It's so fine print and it's handwritten. The book starts here. It says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah. So what's happening here? What is all this? The book will be in very bold and large print. All of this is, these are hawashi. These are footnotes. So how do you tell what's what? So you see here it says Bismillah, he has a number 1 there. So you got footnote number 1. And this is how people used to do it back in the day. Scholars, they would write in a very beautiful fashion. If you look at this is handwritten. It's extremely beautiful. It's written by a calligrapher. And when we were studying, we didn't really enjoy these types of books because that's when the computer type versions were coming out. So we kind of wanted the computer type version. But now that I look at it, I imagine this to be somewhat of an artifact. It's extremely beautiful, alhamdulillah. I never thought of it like that when I was studying, unfortunately. So, it says here, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He says, Qawluhu Bismillah. As you can see, you kind of even have to tilt your head. So all of this is number 1, all across. And you can see here on Ar-Rahman, he has number 2. So then here's number 2, all of this. So this is all, I assume, continues here till here. Then you got number 2 all the way till here. And then on Alhamdulillah, he has number 3, and this is footnote for number 3. And then it continues even onward all across. So it's a very unique way of writing footnotes. It's not like your common style. But this is how people were studying, I assume, over 100 years. So this is the actual book that I studied myself. So you're going to see like highlights and notes, etc. From whatever our sheikh used to tell us. We used to have a notebook in which we used to write all the other notes, but sometimes I would highlight and write in the book itself. That's the introduction. Kitab al-Tahara. So fiqh books start with Tahara. He's going to talk about Tahara, etc. I don't want to do a book review. I just want to share my experience with the book itself and share with you what is kind of the first step in studying the Hanafi madhab traditionally, or what we study in the Dars Nizami, to kind of give us that first step before we go to Qudūrī. Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī is considered one of the greatest books in the Hanafi madhab. It is on the beginner side, but it allows the student to really expand. That being said, Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī is quite difficult for a beginner. So it's like the last stages of the beginner and going into the intermediate stage. And it's such an amazing book that Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī can be studied by a beginner on the beginner's level. It can be studied at an intermediate level for an intermediate, and it could even be studied at an advanced level for advanced students. Now, how is that possible? The beginner would just study what the book is saying. The intermediate would start looking at the different hawashi, the different shuruh, commentaries, looking at different masail that come from that. And the advanced student will be pulling out qawa'id and principles and seeing how that affects fatawa, etc. So it can be used in a various amount of ways, which shows you the amazing qabuliyya and the aspect of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put so much and allowed the author to put so much into his book. So here, traditional fiqh books is going to talk about purity. Then you're going to go into the chapter of salah. So this is the chapter of wudu. As you can see, fasal, it means chapter. And it's written in a larger font so that you can tell when the chapter starts. All of these little orange highlights are numbered. So it's like, okay, there are 3 major aspects to wudu. 1, 2, 3. And then he lists out other aspects. So these are the numbers that I highlighted there. Eventually, he does go into salah. Nūr al-Īḍāḥ was originally written for tahara and salah. That was basically it. Later, the author added some more into it. So you are going to have chapters such as fasting and zakah. I believe fasting was part of the original Nūr al-Īḍāḥ as well. Salah and fasting. Then he added zakah and aspects of hajj. So I wanted to share that with you. If you're interested in studying the Hanafi madhab, Nūr al-Īḍāḥ is indispensable. It is possible for a student to go directly into Qudūrī or study a different primer, but Nūr al-Īḍāḥ is really beneficial from my experience. It allowed me to understand Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī much more. One note is that, like I mentioned, Nūr al-Īḍāḥ does not cover all of fiqh. It only covers purity and worship, aspects of worship. That's it. It doesn't cover marital law. It doesn't cover governmental law. It doesn't cover business law. None of that. Just worship. But it allows the person to understand how to worship and, paves the way for further things. So now I want to share with you different versions of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ. So alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me when I was in the alim course at a very early age. I want to make a correction. I studied Nūr al-Īḍāḥ in my third year of study. And I said second year. This is my third year. So I went for Umrah, alhamdulillah, and then when I was there, I had an opportunity of going to a bookstore in Medina, Munawwara, and I found this book there. So it wasn't available to us in our bookstores. We only had that previous version. So this version, as I was saying, for me, it just helped me so much because it was so clear. Now that I am where I am right now, I would actually prefer the first version just because it gives you that ancient aesthetic. So here we go. This is the other one. Look at the clarity. Alhamdulillah. And this is the white pages that I was talking about. And sometimes it's called mulawwan. They'll say in the cover of the book that it is mulawwan, meaning it has two colors. So they use red to distinguish chapter headings, etc. And they number it and they space it out, so you don't have to. You saw where I use the highlighter, etc. You don't have to do all of that because it's already done for you. So halfway through the year, after I had done Umrah with my friends in the middle of the year, I started using this book. I also gifted the book to my teacher, and he used it for a few days, and he was very happy about it. So anyway, this is the book that I used after, so it goes into Hajj, etc. I really enjoyed using this. But like I said, in today's time, I would choose the handwritten version. You actually can't really find these handwritten versions so easily anymore. They're not being printed anymore, obviously, and they're slowly being taken out. You can still find them here and there, but after a while, they're not going to print them anymore. They're going to only print these. So if you really want these handwritten copies of books, you have to buy them soon. I assume in like 30, 40 years, they're not going to be around anymore. Now, an even better version, which is what's called muhaqqaq. Researched, checked, various manuscripts were consulted. So a very authentic version of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ wa Najāt al-Arwāḥ we have here. It says Nūr al-Īḍāḥ wa Najāt al-Arwāḥ. First of all, what is Nūr al-Īḍāḥ wa Najāt al-Arwāḥ? The light of clarity and salvation of the souls. It's a Ḥanafī fiqh book, but it's such a beautiful title. Written by Hasan bin Ammar al-Shurumbullāri, the Egyptian scholar. He passed away in 1069 Hijri. Now this tahqiq, meaning there was a scholar who found manuscripts of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ, because of course in 1000 Hijri they didn't have computer type books, it was handwritten by scribes. He collected these different manuscripts and then he typed it all out, he cross-compared them, and then he put it together in a very beautiful fashion, printed by Darul Bashair al-Islamiyya, and the muhaqqiq is Ustad Dr. Sa'id Bakdash. It's a very famous Hanafi muhaqqiq. So let's take a look at the book itself. So now this is going to be the cream paper that I was talking about, and it's also mulawwan with the red. And this, he says, is the second edition of this version. 2015 it was published. So he has his introduction where he talks about what he did, how he did it. He talks about the biography of the author, Imam al-Shurumbullāri. And here he talks, in this section, he talks about the manuscripts that he got a hold of and how he used them. So let's see how many manuscripts he used. 13, I'm just looking at the number, 13 different manuscripts of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ that this muhaqqiq Sheikh Sa'id Bakdash got. He cross-compared them and he put them together. And what I really like is they give you images of these different manuscripts. As you can see here, this is what the scribes write, right? So in 1000 Hijri, they didn't have computers, they wrote all this. Sometimes a dictation from the Imam himself, Sometimes another scribe copied a original dictation to some students, etc. So these are the various manuscripts, as you can see here. So imagine you and I are able to read these manuscripts because this sheikh got them together, typed it all out, cross-compared them, put the differences in the Ḥāshiyat, in the footnotes. So this is a really nice edition. I, of course, like I mentioned, I didn't study from this edition. I studied from that original one, but this was not available when I was studying. So look at the clarity of this. And he puts different footnotes inside, sometimes a commentary from the muhaqqiq himself, Dr. Sa'id Bakdash. Sometimes he's talking about different manuscripts in there. So this is another very beautiful edition of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ. So, Nūr al-Īḍāḥ, an excellent book for a beginner student in the Ḥanafī madhab. If you don't understand Arabic, then of course the first step is to understand and learn Arabic with the teacher. Nūr al-Īḍāḥ should be studied with the teacher. Right? It's very difficult for a student in the beginning stages to study books on their own. So this book should be studied with a sheikh. However, for students who have learned Arabic, are studying with the sheikh, but want a supplement and maybe their Arabic isn't at that level, this has been translated. And it's been translated under the title, The Light of Clarity. So you can find that. Inshallah, I'll put the link for the English ones in the description. Now, before I finish, I want to just share with you a commentary on Nūr al-Īḍāḥ. So the author of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ himself, he wrote a commentary on Nūr al-Īḍāḥ called Marāqī al-Falāḥ. Now, I'm not going to go into like the different commentaries. The author has written more than one commentary on it and the development of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ. I'm not really going to talk about that right now. I know some of you maybe you know this, and I'm not unaware of it, but I'm just sharing the basics here. This is Ḥāshiyat al-Ṭaḥṭāwī ala Marāqī al-Falāḥ, which is a commentary of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ. Imam Ash-Shurunbulali, he wrote Nūr al-Īḍāḥ, a primer in the Ḥanafī madhab that goes over ibadat, acts of worship. He then wrote a commentary called Marāqī al-Falāḥ. So Marāqī al-Falāḥ is a simple commentary of the author. He goes into a little bit more elaboration, adds more masail, things like that. Imam al-Ṭaḥṭāwī, who passed away in 1231, so that is about 200 years after Imam Ash-Shurunbulali, the author. He was a great Hanafi scholar. He wrote a Ḥāshiyat, and his Ḥāshiyat is very widely accepted. This is, for a more advanced student, indispensable. Like if you want to learn ibadat and acts of worship in the Hanafi madhab, you can read Ḥāshiyat al-Ṭaḥṭāwī. You'll get a very good understanding of ibadat in the Hanafi madhab. And then, beyond that, if you want to learn like really intricate, advanced level, then you have to go to like the encyclopedic works after that. So this is 2 volumes, Ḥāshiyat al-Ṭaḥṭāwī ala Marāqī al-Falāḥ. Again, Marāqī al-Falāḥ is a commentary of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ. Ḥāshiyat al-Ṭaḥṭāwī is a Ḥāshiyat on that. So if you open up to a random page, you have here Nūr al-Īḍāḥ, Marāqī al-Falāḥ, and then Ḥāshiyat al-Ṭaḥṭāwī. So Nūr al-Īḍāḥ is going to be in bold print. All of it is in bold. There's a dark, bold line separating Nūr al-Īḍāḥ from Marāqī al-Falāḥ, both done by the same author. And in Marāqī al-Falāḥ, you can see the bold aspect of Nūr al-Īḍāḥ in parentheses. And the aspect of Marāqī al-Falāḥ is going to be without the bold. So he says, فَإِذَا مَاتَ شُدَّ لَحْيَاهُ. This is the chapter of when someone dies, what to do in that situation. And so that aspect, فَإِذَا مَاتَ شُدَّ لَحْيَاهُ. And here his commentary on that. Now, there is a further commentary, the Ḥāshiyat of Imam Ṭaḥṭāwī. So he adds more onto it. So it says, قَوْلُهُ شُدَّ لَحْيَاهُ. And that's that same portion, and then he goes into more depth. So this is an excellent book for if someone is on the level of teaching Nūr al-Īḍāḥ. This could be an excellent source for the teacher, and then they would have plenty of extra knowledge. Of course, they don't have to go into all of this, but they'll have that knowledge base so that they can teach Nūr al-Īḍāḥ ala basira, they'll understand it in depth, and they'll be able to convey it in the best manner. If you're not on the level where you can study Ḥāshiyat al-Ṭaḥṭāwī, at least you can get Marāqī al-Falāḥ. So students can cite Marāqī al-Falāḥ, and if they are a little bit more advanced, they've studied a little bit more in the Ḥanafī madhab, Ḥāshiyat al-Ṭaḥṭāwī is the way to go if you really want to understand Ḥanafī fiqh, especially fiqh al-ibadat. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to study these beneficial works, give us tawfiq to understand the various beautiful systems that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the ilham to His scholars to make. Right? The scholars of Islam, they formulated these madahib, and these madahib are an intricate system that have developed over 1,000 years. And they're just the way to go, in my opinion. When you follow a madhab, alhamdulillah, there's so much scholarship behind it. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to benefit, and I hope this was of benefit to you. If it was, please subscribe, please comment, please like the video. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.